Good morning, guys. Today is a very beautiful morning in Rotterdam, and we are already late for a trip to Amsterdam. So I'm going on a short 2-day trip to Amsterdam, and I thought, why not start my first video from there, right? And as usual, I'm late. And as usual, I am running out of topics to talk about on a screen, which is exactly what happens in front of people as well. But that's that. So yeah, we are going to go to Amsterdam, and I am going to get better at doing this, clearly, because I am going completely blank in my head, and it's like when you overthink a little bit too much, like overthinking, this is what happens. Like what happens, this is what happens. It's one of those things where I ask myself if I should be saying that over and over and over again. And because of that, I have formulated this identity of myself in my mind that this is who you are. You are an overthinker, right? Or even worse, you cannot talk in a flow. Like you pause a lot when you talk, right? And this is an identity that I have formed of myself. But what I've recently realized is that if it were not for this belief that this is how I just am, or this is just how I talk, there's more aspects to me and to everyone that they're like in different phases of my life. And in my mind, the belief that you are supposed to be constant, I think when I was about 2 or 3 years ago, I had newly gotten into self-development, and I was believing everything that anyone in the field was saying. So I came across this one guy who I won't name, but he's very popular, and I was obsessed with him. I also ordered a book, but yeah, whatever. And he said this one thing: how you do anything is how you do everything, right? And for some reason, out of all of the good things that I heard, this is the one that I latched onto the most. And even before this, for some reason, I have this belief that I have to be, it's called perfectionism. I have to be perfect all the time. And if I'm either not perfect, I am my brain goes, if you're not perfect, you are worthless. That's literally how my brain talks to me. And so I have spent so many years in trying to live up to the left belief, the perfect belief. And it's just freaking exhausting. And it's also not sustainable. You can be perfect for one day, you can pretend to be perfect for one day, for a week, but the thing is that it's not, it shouldn't even be an ideal, because it's not a thing. There is no such thing as perfectionism, as being perfect, right? And so, coming back to my point, because I ADHD digress a lot, this is what happens, and I am not going to cut this out of the video because this is the whole point of this channel. So I'm just gonna take a sec and try to remember what I was talking about. Yeah, So the fact that I recently realized up until 2 days up like about 2 weeks ish ago is that I don't have to always be the same person in every facet of my life. Like, for instance, if I'm going to an interview, the person that I have to be in the interview is not the person that I have to be right now. And to like many of you out there, most of you, in fact, this might seem pretty obvious, but I used to tell myself that no, there has to be like an underlying common persona that you are working towards. Maybe that's true, maybe that isn't. But the thing is that I took that too literally, and I wanted to come across as the totally secure, hyper independent, confident, always saying the right things. This is another main issue, saying the right things, which I would talk about in another video. But miss perfect all the time. That's not true. That holds you back. And I could go on talking about this for years, but now we're late to Amsterdam, for Amsterdam, and I really want to take you guys with me on the trip. And so I'm gonna finish my breakfast real quick, and yeah, just see ya there. There's gonna be a lot of talking in Amsterdam as well, although I don't think so because I've booked a lot of things to see, but we'll see. So yeah, thanks for listening to rant number 1 of this YouTube channel. I feel like I would be so much better at talking to the camera than talking to real people in real life, because I get to talk about only myself and not have to take anybody else's emotions into consideration. So just to because I thought of this right now, and I thought, what better time than exactly when you think about it. So just to give you guys a few examples of what I meant when I said I always thought that I had to be the same person. I thought that, for example, in interviews, right, you are expected to be talkative, you're expected to be confident, and you're expected to know what the fuck it is that you're talking about. But I thought that in order to, so I basically reduced my, and this is just an example, but I basically just reduced my life to an interview, because I thought that the way that I'm supposed to be in an interview, always talkative, always perfect, always, and again, I'm just using an interview to be like the, to give the example of perfectionism, because most people think of themselves to be like their best versions in interviews, and so I thought I always have to, I have to practice and like live my life in such a way that I become the talkative, perfect, confident person forever, just so I could potentially in the future, when I would need to give interviews, would also be able to be that person. I'm not judging myself, trying so hard not to judge myself right now, but and this is not about passing judgment on oneself. I thought I had to be emerged out of my personal experiences, and it was a manifestation of my trauma responses. The point is to observe and get it out. So I just bought an ice cream. Thank you. Not an ice cream, a shake at an ice cream place. And something that I wanted to talk about just to myself is how much I still struggle with decision making, in the sense that when I'm supposed to make, and the more complicated the decision, the more nervous I get, because if I find myself in a position in which I have to make a decision in front of a person, and It's something as simple as, what do I want to order between a shake or an ice cream, between 4 flavors of ice cream and 4 kind of cones for the ice cream, and 3 different sizes of the shakes and 4 different flavors of the shakes, and that makes it, I think, around 48 total combinations. I don't know, my permutations and combinations isn't that brushed up on, but I still, although, you know what, I'll shift the perspective and I will say that I am so proud of how far I have come, that I don't actually feel as nervous as I used to last year. And that is the truth. I do not feel as nervous as I freaking used to last year. Like last year, when I used to go to order something, I used to think my whole worth would be defined. Like my whole existence as a human being would be justified there right then in that moment. My whole existence as a human being, I need to justify in that moment by, wait for it, how eloquently I placed my order, by how beautifully I do it, by how I use the right words, and how I just come across as such an experienced, non-amateur, adult order placer that there ever was to exist on this planet. My whole existence was to be defined by that. And I used to get so bloody nervous. I couldn't even, when I had to order in front of my parents, I couldn't even, or anyone, pick up the phone to make a call. That's how anxious I freaking was. Well, not that person anymore. You know, I feel like my life is worth being documented. So here we go. But no, I really mean it. When we start gaining some level of self-worth, we start feeling this way. Like, I just saw a gym that's called the Goldman Sachs of gyms, but whatever, like narcissists. Anyway, hey, we're not here to judge others. Hot power yoga. Ooh. This whole channel is going to be about me being my true, authentic self. However, every single time I turn the camera on, I find myself getting stuck in the trap of thinking, what is it that I should say? And the reason that I call this a trap is because there's a thing known as loopy thoughts. So my brain gets all loopy because it starts thinking, maybe it's a good idea to say, hey, come with me to Amsterdam and look at the things around me. But then my brain goes, hey, but the channel you're starting, it's not a travel vlog. It's a, well, talk about yourself vlog. Like, talk about your thoughts vlog. And the way that you have viewed that is that I am going to be talking about, honestly, I started it with the intention of talking about my struggles. I do not want to mold it any other way. That's how it was. I've been trying to look at it in the sense that how can I manufacture this to be something that's more appropriate for YouTube. That's more how I can pass it off, how I can pass off what I have learned as a learning, and not just, well, rant. I think saying and thinking that you need to change what you are actually thinking for the sake of this podcast is the problem, and it's me invalidating my genuine thoughts because I feel that
here we are crossing the Reguliersgracht, which is mainly famous for its 7 boat bridges.
About things that
this canal is named
not
after the former Reguliers monastery.
Are not
here
learning based, are like nobody would be interested in that. But I need to keep on reminding myself, which is something that I don't even believe as I am saying it. Like, I don't believe that I need to keep on reminding myself this and stay on track with this, because I have a tendency to stop doing what I start doing.
Yeah, you're right. They're the 7 stone bridges. The tunnel of
and so this is something that I need to keep on reminding myself, that I have to not give a shit about what people think. I don't care if people go, oh, she's spreading negativity, oh, she only talks about, well, her struggles. I guess that's the whole point. And I am not convinced as I am speaking this. My brain is still going, no, you've got to make content, like now that you're on YouTube or whatever, like no, you've got to say things that people want to hear. That's what my brain is doing right now. But the conscious me is perfectly aware that that is not true. The conscious me wants her original voice heard. Be it the nasty thoughts that are going on in my brain, and even though it sounds like I'm crying all of the time, because it may as well be like that for a while. It's probably gonna be like that for a while, because when you haven't had
Amsterdam staat bekend om zijn prostitutie.
For a really long time, and even a platform in terms of like people, safe space, a community where you feel that your needs are met and your voice is heard. This is what happens.
Back in the days, prostitution was scattered throughout the city, even on this very canal.
Stay tuned.
However, these days, it is limited to the red light districts.
As the guy from the Diary of a CEO says, I hope no one's listening, but if you are,
Central Station by
something.
Amsterdam.
Oh my god. Doing. Sono scappate le orecchie.